This is an intermediate advanced storytelling discussion with a close Daygame friend of mine, Mr. T. Mr. T is an advanced Daygamer with more than 50 Daygame lists. He's coming back from a break in Daygame and wants to understand how to use storytelling to make his Daygame conversations better. You see, even guys with more than 50 lays are still polishing their storytelling to make girls more attracted to them. While most guys will learn from this podcast episode, this will be especially helpful if you're going out, approaching, getting some numbers, some dates, and even an occasional lay here and there, but your results are inconsistent and very unpredictable. If you feel like you're doing okay with girls that are interested in chatting with you from the beginning of the conversation, but you can't understand how to make the other girls interested, then this is for you. The podcast is in a Q&A format. You'll find timestamps for all the questions in the description below, so feel free to jump around. And if you also have some questions that you want to ask me, make sure you are on my mailing list. Once in a while, I do Q&As around different topics with people on my mailing list. To sign up, head over to daygamecourses.com, where you will also get access to my free texting, dating, and daygame courses, which means you'll have all the theory needed to get more numbers, learn to convert these numbers to more dates, and learn what to do on dates to have more of them and with something fun in your bedroom. But now let's jump into this podcast episode, and just so you know, I set up the camera so that I'm the only person visible to avoid exposing Mr. T's identity too often on this podcast.
So what is the purpose of storytelling?
Damn, such a big question. So the problem that guys sometimes have with building attraction is, okay, in the beginning of the conversation with a girl, you find a topic to talk about. Let's say you find out what she does, where she's from, and then you want to build attraction. And you do that by, for example, teasing, kind of doing playful, positive teases about whatever the topic is. But if you do short one-off teases, for example, I don't know, she's a lawyer, and then you make a joke about, oh, are you like a good type of lawyer saving the world? Are you the evil corporate lawyer? And then she tells you the answer, then you can joke about that a little bit. These one-off teases, or for example, I don't know, she's from Texas, and you make a joke about, where's your horse and aren't you wearing cowboy boots? The guys do these like one-off short teases, but they often get short, simple responses. They don't get like more than like a giggle, a yes or no, like a very short response. So what storytelling lets you do is weave together multiple interesting things, whether that's short kind of things short things about the topic she gave you, preferably something that sparks attraction, like a tease. So that's one thing that storytelling lets you do. So you're weaving together multiple small things instead of just using like a one-off throwaway tease, which doesn't get you reactions. When you weave multiple of them together, like I'm gonna link them together in a chain, that usually gets much better reactions from a girl. Outside of that, you're also showing that you're like, she realizes, oh, this dude knows how to talk to people. He's like an interesting dude to talk to. You're just showing that you have an interesting personality and you know how to talk to people. Those are the two that I have top of my head. There's probably something more, but those are the important ones. Yeah.
So what can someone that is good at storytelling expect to get out of that as part of the interaction?
Hopefully a hook point, like a moment where she sees that, oh, this dude is interesting. You spark her emotion. She giggles, and she starts to respond and invest in a conversation. But second of all, she becomes interested enough in you that she, asks you a question. She basically doesn't want to leave anymore. She's not thinking, oh, when will this end? Shit, I have to go. I have a boyfriend, whatever. Like, she's just, oh, okay, I want to talk to this guy. So storytelling gives us an opportunity to reach more hook points and get more girls to invest.
Okay. So at this point, a lot of people have the lawyer example is one that comes up.
Yeah, I keep bringing it up as like
I bet your audience is great at attracting lawyers now, just from that copy paste, like sure. All the lawyers are in trouble. But you do also mention that talking about the job or bring up job is not the most interesting thing you could bring up.
Yeah.
Does stacking on job potentially set one up for failure?
Yes. So the problem isn't with talking about their job. The problem is stacking about job as the first topic, because when guys are hitting on girls, I mean, dear listeners, and you know, other day gamers, you know, like you got to think, what are the mistakes you see other day, like you go out with other day gamers, what are the mistakes you see them do? Like they ask really boring questions. What's your name? What do you do? Oh, how long you been doing that? Oh, you like that? Yeah. And she's had that conversation a gazillion times, and it's really boring. And as soon as she hears that, oh, what do you do? What's your name? She's writing you off, because in the beginning of a conversation, if your stop and opener is good, that increases the attraction to, let's say, 3 out of 10. And a 3 out of 10 gives you maybe 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute. She'll give you a little bit of time to see, hey, is this worth, you know, continuing? And during those 30 seconds to 1 minute, you have to increase the attraction even more, and then she's much more likely to stay. But if you don't increase it even more, she will leave. God forbid the attraction drops. She's going to be out instantly. So when as soon as she hears a boring question, she's going to be out, because the attraction drops even lower than it is, you know, 3, 4, whatever, two. So you're just, by asking these boring questions, you destroy the chance. And then, okay, stacking is a better way to find topics to talk about. But if you do work as the first topic, like it's so close to asking a boring question about what do you do that I'm not a big fan of it. That being said, if you start the conversation with, you know, you do your typical opener with a compliment, and then you say, hey, I really like that you look so artistic, you know, like someone who paints really crazy art and sells it on Etsy, or plays a guitar in a rock band. And let's say she says, oh, no, not at all. And then you go, this doesn't mean you have to go to a different stack and completely change the topic. You can just you can go to the other extreme, from artistic to serious. So you stacked with, she looks artistic, she says no. You can say, oh, don't tell me you're one of those super serious lawyers or accountants. So it is about job, but you didn't start with it. And if you end up on a topic of her work this way, that's absolutely fine. The important part is just don't start the conversation with, you know, you do your compliment and you say, yeah, I noticed you look very serious, like a lawyer, accountant. Like, don't do that. Like if you go with the artistic is fine, and then ending on job as a topic is absolutely fine. That's okay. So there's a difference between work as the first topic you talk about, and then work as the first stack you use. At least that's in my experience, and, you know, seeing what works for my students.
I got you. So one of the things that I often run into when I'm stacking is, we know we want to give 2 options, right? And I usually will stay away from the job thing. So if I approach someone, and they had a yoga vibe, I'd be like, oh, you look like one of those people that's really into yoga, or maybe you are one of those crazy CrossFit people. Actually, usually if they're in yoga pants, or you're one of those people who just wears the who's a fashionista and just wears the pants just to kind of have that look. But a girl will come back with, no, actually, I'm a psychologist, right? Maybe that one's a bit easier to follow up, because we have
a topic.
We have a topic for that. But sometimes they just throw out something that is like, I'm a ballerina.
Okay,
and what throws me off is, I was so fixated on on her answering yes to the first 2, that now that I think about it, it's silly that I don't make a story on the ballerina, but it does happen. It just, all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, she didn't pick one of my 2 options.
Yeah, but it just sounds like if you go out consistently enough and you're warmed up, like you should be fine in that situation. It just sounds like a problem of maybe you know, when you're a little rusty, you know, you're not playing your A game, you're playing your B game, because you know, you've taken some time off, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? But no, if you go out consistently and you warmed up, I don't think it should be a problem. And regardless of what she does for a living, you can always use the same story. As while learning storytelling, you can start with the same copy paste story, regardless of what it is that she does for a living. And then once you're good at that, then, well, there's a whole different conversation of how you expand on those stories and yeah.
Gotcha. So one of the things that's a follow up to that is when it comes to work or professions, one of the easiest things to do is to basically categorize a number of professions into a particular group. That will make it easier so that a beginner doesn't have to basically work through a separate story for each and every single profession that's out there. So you have the serious professions, you have the creative professions or activities, or something else, right? When it comes to geography, now let's move to geography. That can have a lot more scope, right? Um, so how would a beginner try to lump their or categorize different geographies or different cities or locations so that they can have fairly generic framework that they can build on for that?
Yeah, this is a little harder because with professions, it's actually easier than you said. You don't even have to separate them in serious or creative. You can do as a complete beginner learning storytelling, you can do the same story for absolutely all professions and then kind of learn to add a tiny bit of improvisation once you're more comfortable with the storytelling. So you can do the same story all the time, and then you add like 10% of improv that's like specific to that profession. But if you want, we can cover that story. But talking about geography, yeah. So with geography, you're probably not going to have a story for each country. That's kind of obvious. But you can divide the world in like large groups. Let's say you are from the US, as an example. A lot of people in my audience are from the US, I think a majority. Uh, you meet, let's say, a lot of Latinas. You can have the same story for all of Latinas. Basically, wherever in Latin America she's from, you can say something about loud people, something about dancing, and something about how they, instead of having white Christmas, they do crazy parties for Christmas, which is something I learned in Mexico. So you can have one story for all of Latin American countries. Um, you can have you can take Asia as part of the world, divide it maybe in kind of multiple very very big groups, maybe like these kind of more southern countries that are a bit more kind of exotic, like Thailand, Cambodia, all of those, and you put them all of them in one group and like make like a similar one story for all of them. And then you take your kind of China, I don't know, Mongolia, I don't like kind of more northern part of Asia, maybe if we can call it like that, and you make one story for those. Like you can basically pick how broad you want your stories to be. If you want, you can do one story for all of Asia in the beginning, and one story for all of Europe, and one story for everyone from the US. But that's going to be a little bit too generic. So I would maybe divide it in kind of slightly smaller groups. But there are two things that I want people to understand about learning storytelling. About topics where you need more than one story. Like, as I said, professions, as a beginner, just use the same story over and over again. Nothing wrong with it. While you're learning, later stop doing that. Don't be a moron using the same story on every chick forever and ever. But so there are two things I want people to understand. One is you don't learn stories while you are in a set. You learn stories outside of sets. Not when you go home, but for example, you do a set, you open a girl, she says she's from China. And you're in a set and you're like, oh shit, I don't fucking know what to say. And you do something and it's again, you whatever, it goes somewhere, it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't matter. But what matters is after the conversation, you simply then and there think, hey, what was the topic I got? The first topic I got was she's from China. Okay, what's the story I can tell the next time I meet someone from China? And then you think about, you can use the three things technique. Hey, what are three things that I can use about China that are interesting, that are slightly teasing, spark her emotions? What can I use about people from China? You think about that, you come up with them, and then you go about a new day game and, you do all of your sets. But sooner or later, you're gonna run into a girl from China again. And then you, oh shit, I had a topic from China. I came up with these three things. You maybe remember one or two of them. You don't remember all of them because not every third girl is going to be Chinese. And then after that set, you pause and you think, hey, wait, what was the topic? China, right? I used these three things. Okay, how can I improve this even more so that the third time I meet a Chinese girl, I can actually say something more interesting. And the third time you meet her, like you do this again, and then if by the fifth time you meet someone from China, you don't have a polished, good story that you can use every time you meet a girl from China. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your day game? Well, because when guys are going out and they're just approaching, and let's say they meet like, they've met like 40 girls from China and they still don't have a story, and they just think that they're going to learn some magic technique that's going to let them come up with interesting things to say in a set. It just doesn't happen like that. Yes, there are wunderkinds who can do that, but they are exceptions. So this work happens outside of sets, not when you go home, because people don't do it when they go home. They have other priorities, other things. They're tired, and then you do it right after the set. And okay, if it's a topic where you don't know anything about the topic that came up, yeah, that's fine. You thought about it for like a minute or two, nothing comes to your mind. Okay, open the notes app, write down whatever. She's an actuary. Go home, Google what the fuck is an actuary. Yeah, it's a statistics, math, insurance. Yeah, and then you come up with a story at home. I don't know whether doing some research on Wikipedia, you can use ChatGPT for that. And then the next time you meet someone who does that, okay, now you have a story or from that country. But remember, we're not talking about specifically China. We're talking about these big groups of stories like, hey, you met one Latina, and then in the same session, you met three more Latinas. Then, okay, four Latinas, you should already have a decent story. So that's how you learn storytelling with these groups, where you can't use the same story over and over again. That's one thing. And then another thing that I want people to understand is people are afraid to go into these stories because they are afraid. They don't know anything about, they don't know whether what they're saying is actually true. Then, oh shit, I might say that, but I might be wrong. It might be offensive. Like, whatever, just say it. I don't remember who was the Daygame, or maybe John Matrix, someone else. I don't remember, but I heard of someone using the same story about geography, where let's say a girl is from Thailand, and he would say, oh yeah, I can already imagine you having a picnic with like a wine in front of Eiffel Tower. and that would get girls giggling and spark emotions and give some response. And so don't be afraid to say something ridiculously stupid with your stories and be completely wrong. It's actually good. Because when you say something wrong, there's this joke online, like, how do you get people to give you good advice on forums? You log in as another user and you give bad advice and other people will correct you. It's the same in Daygame. She tells you she's from Thailand. You say something stupid that's wrong about Thailand. She's going to correct you. She's going to be really interested in correcting you. So it actually works very, very good when you say something dumb, and oftentimes actually gets even better responses. So, new Daygame technique, start saying really dumb shit.
Okay, that's cool. So something that some few things that I caught on is it's someone has to actually look at what they just had in the interaction and immediately try to come up with an answer if they got stuck. Put that in the notes app or take note of it immediately.
No, just remember.
Just take note of it.
Just whatever. You're not going to go over these notes. It's overkill.
Fair enough. They need to take note of it mentally or somehow.
Note, yeah.
That's fair. So in that case, it's not enough to just, a lot of people will be like, hey, I'm putting in the volume, but they're not doing the self-reflection, or they're not stopping to actually think. So what's do you want to revise that statement that, hey, just put in more volume, for the people who are just putting in volume but not really?
Well, as many listeners of my podcast know, I keep talking about the 5 main reasons guys aren't getting results in Daygame. And just to recap them quickly, they are consistency, so not putting in enough volume. And then we have using the wrong Daygame model. We have not seeing your mistakes, thinking that you're doing everything correctly even though you're not, or just understanding, hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Then having a bad vibe or being too technical, too robotic, and then not bringing anything to the table. And with not doing enough volume, my idea with volume is that the order I gave these 5 things, that's the order they go in. So if you're not putting in enough volume, nothing else matters. You can have the perfect day game model. You can have great wings who point out your mistakes, or you can even do coaching calls. I have students who like show up for monthly coaching calls, but they're not putting in volume. They're not doing the work. So the progress is very, very slow. So consistency comes first, volume comes first, and only after you're putting in enough volume, that's when everything else starts to matter. So in this case, coming up with these stories, that would be the second problem, using the wrong day game model, or rather, they have to use the right day game model and do the right things to implement it. In this case, that would be reviewing their whether that's recorded sets or just thinking after the set, hey, what was the topic and how do I work with it next time?
Okay. And so given that this is kind of, you have to go out, you can start with some canned lines that we have preset, but they're going to have to kind of figure out how to adapt these to different situations. For someone just starting out, let's say they just listen to your podcast right now, they're like, all right, I'm going to go do my approaches. I have a copy pasta thing to go with. I imagine their delivery is not going to come off as great. They have the lines, but the lines need to land. So in that case, it seems that your listeners have to be aware of the fact that in this process, their results are going to suffer, or their perceived results for the whole interaction are going to suffer, but at the future benefit of being good at telling the stories if they put time into it.
I see where you're leading with this question, because I have a good story to tell here, but it's because we had a conversation yesterday over coffee about why do we start with copy-paste stories? Is that what this is about?
There is, yeah, why we start with copy-paste, but also that as you start trying to get better at storytelling, just telling stories, you are not going to do as well because you're cognitively going to be
so first of all, let's just get one thing out of the way before we go into this rabbit hole. We're talking about someone who knows how to stop, open, start a conversation, get topics.
Yes.
Like we're talking about someone who's at that level. They've kind of done the first thing is AA. The second thing is learning the good opener and stacking, and then they start getting topics and start learning storytelling, the hardest but most important skill in Daygame. So we're talking about someone who's at that level where now they're going to start learning storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so the question then is how should we look at kind of using copy-paste stories and then improving delivery, right? Yeah, okay. So it's the topic we talked about yesterday, right? That's where you're leading with
It's
it.
gone. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then let's do it in multiple parts. Why do we start with copy-paste, with one copy-paste story? Let's say the same lawyer thing, because it's just the most obvious, kind of easiest to explain. We start with one copy-paste story for all professions, not because it's going to get great responses.
Oh, that's not it.
No, no, not at all. Because your delivery is going to be shit. You're going to be stressed. You're not going to remember your words. It's like, oh shit, what do I say next? What was the line? What was the thing one, thing two, thing three? And by the way, just in case, I know some people listening to this will not have heard that story, so I'm just gonna repeat it again, just a copy paste story. So whatever her profession is, you can always use one copy paste story, and it is. I used to hang out a lot of lawyers, and I learned 3 things about you guys. The first is you have to study so hard because there is so many things to learn as a lawyer. And then when you finally start working, that's the second thing, you have to work super hard because it's so competitive. It's such a cutthroat industry. Oh my God. But then once I went out with my lawyer friends and it started as like 1-2 quiet drinks, but by the end of the night, oh my God, you guys know how to party. I can't keep up with you guys. So this is a copy-paste story you can use with lawyers, but if she's a dentist, just replace a word lawyer with the word dentist. If she's a florist, it works on any fucking profession. The goal isn't to use the same copy paste story on everyone, obviously, long term. That's just how we get started. And why? Here we come to the kind of question of why do we start with copy paste stories, and where does the delivery come in? So, when you deliver like a story for the first time, or when you try to start using this three things technique to link together multiple stories, it's so stressful because you have to remember the structure of the story and you have to come up with three things and you have to do it in a perfect delivery and it has to make sense. Oh my God. And it's so stressful that it's basically impossible because there are too many, it's overwhelming for the brain unless you're like a wunderkind. There are people like that again. Yeah. So it's overwhelming and it's just impossible to do. So people either really fuck up or they just don't do it because they don't know three things. They don't know what they're going to say. So we start with a copy-paste story, not because it gets amazing reactions, because delivery will be shit even with the copy-paste story, because you will not be able to remember even this copy-paste story. But we do it so that after you've done it like 10, 20 times, you will finally be able to deliver one simple copy-paste story. Like you're going to remember all the words. And then once it's on autopilot, you don't have to think anymore about, oh shit, what do I have to say? And you can start thinking, it's so much on autopilot that you can start thinking about delivery. Hey, how is my voice? Like, do I speak too fast? Am I super stressed? Because just Joe Chip in a chat, one of the advanced guys in our chat, he said a few days ago, it's not about, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's not about exactly what you say. These copy paste lines, they don't have like any magic words in them. But the idea is if you know exactly what you're going to say, you don't have to worry about that. You can focus more on your mood, on your delivery. So that's the goal. We start with one copy paste story to actually learn to be able to deliver it and then polish the delivery. Because in the beginning, when you really have to think and remember about the story, your brain's kind of the logical part, the prefrontal cortex it can't focus on many things at the same time. It can only focus on this one copy paste story. But once you repeat it 10, 20 times, just it goes on autopilot. It goes like different parts of your brain are responsible for that at that moment, and then your prefrontal cortex has enough capacity to start thinking about other things. Oh shit, how's my delivery? Or for example, if you want to improve your stories and you want to stop using copy paste shit, okay, she's a kindergarten teacher, and you start with three things, and you have to learn, you have to study so hard. But then you can think, because now you have brain capacity to think about, okay, but what do I actually know about kindergarten teachers? What do they have to learn? Well, because you have different types of kids and you have to like deal with the quiet ones, but you also have to know how to deal with the really bratty ones, yeah? You're able to improvise a little bit, and then you keep your story going, and you have to work so hard because, oh my God, like the parents drop off their kids at like, 7 a.m.? So you have to wake up at like 5 to be in job on time. And on top of that, it's fucking crazy. You work until late because some fucking parent forgot to pick up their kids, and it's like crazy work hours. You have enough brain capacity to come up with that. And then when you do the third thing, the party, it's like, well, yeah, and because you're dealing with these screaming monsters every day. I mean, who can resist a glass of wine on a Friday night? But then the glass of wine turns into, kindergarten teachers, like 5 glasses in, they're bitching about all the kids they have to deal with to each other. So it just frees brain capacity to start coming up with things that are actually related to the topic you're talking about, not just delivering a stupid copy-paste story that, that's kind of the idea. Does this answer your question, or?
That does answer the question. And how many kindergarten teachers did you have to approach to have that story?
Oh, I just came up with it right now. I probably opened some, but I don't have a story for I don't think I have stories for anyone, actually.
So this is a testament to the fact that because you have the basic framework of how you're going to deliver the three things,
yeah,
you kind of filled in the little details there.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we use this one stupid template of 3 things, because it's just a template. You learn to use a template that you can later fill with whatever you want. You can put a bunch of little things in there, and then that's the whole idea why we use these storytelling templates, not to be copy paste, but just to have something to work with in the future.
Got it. I think you have a different podcast where you went a bit deeper into the actual step by step, because there are other versions of this whereby you can't do 3 things all the time. You have to kind of refine that. We're not going to get into that, but I think you already talked about that in a different podcast, right?
Is it the one that you saw me working on yesterday?
I don't know. You probably podcast coming out at some point.
Because this is coming out before that. This is coming out first.
But it's because it's like you can't keep saying three things all the time.
No, you don't have to say 3 things. Actually, there's a little misconception about the technique. You can say you don't even have to use the phrase 3 things. Like I like the idea for the reason I like beginners saying, when I think about lawyers, I think about 3 things, or I used to hang out with a lot of your lawyers, and I learned about 3 things. It just creates this information gap where now the girl wants to know what the 3 things are, but it also forces the student now to come up with 3 things, which I don't think it's that important anymore, because if you're gonna come up with 3 things anyway, like, fuck that phrase. But you can set up that story in many different ways. You can just say, I used to hang out with a lot of lawyers because of what I do for a living, and I learned that you guys have to study so much, and you just go into 3 things without saying there are 3 things, or she's from, I don't know, she's from like this town in Germany. You say, oh, I actually watched a documentary about that part of Germany, and they told that. I was like, thing 1, thing 2, thing 3, yeah. Or I don't know, she like does this contemporary dance. She does contemporary dance, and I don't know. You can also say that, my ex-girlfriend did that, and she told me that, or I can after a while realize that you people da. So you can set it up in so many different ways that you can use this technique for like however many times you want in a set, because you're not saying 3 things. You're not saying always, when I think about X, I think about ABC, or they told me that, or you can documentary, X, friends, I went, saw a movie. It's just, yeah.
Understood. And is there a particular way, well, yeah, what's one of the ways to keep in mind when delivering the story for it to have impact? What are some of the things to keep in mind so that your story has impact?
Yeah, so these things have to be interesting things. Like if you just, especially the last thing, like because I suggest the one thing that's going to spark the most emotions, like leave it as the last one. And of course, in the example story, it's kind of boring, It's like, studies are hard, works are hard, and then you party. Okay, you can make the party part interesting, and then so that's why it's the last one. But ideally, you would know something interesting about the things they have to learn if you're using the learning study, working hard, and then you would have something interesting about the first thing. You would have something interesting about the second thing, and then about the third thing. So these are 3 mini stories, 3 interesting mini stories, preferably each sparking emotions. Yeah. So I would say that's the most important thing. Another thing you can do is, if you have been on a date with a girl who's a kindergarten teacher, and now you run into a kindergarten teacher, whatever you learned about kindergarten teachers from the girl you went on a date with, use it now, because that's going to be, usually when they open up, they start telling you things, and these things they're things no one else knows about the industry. So you have like the real insider information. For example, the last student I coached, like 2 weeks ago, he opened a girl who's in an art school, and he does the same 3 things, and about working hard. She starts telling that she interrupts the story, and she starts telling that, I realized that when you actually want to work it with this field, when you want to sell your art, it's not about how good of a painter you are, but you have to be really good at communication. You have to reach out to all of these people in art galleries. You have to be in contact with them, build relationships. So it's a lot about that. And then this same guy later on the same session opened a girl who does something with music. And he basically took what he learned about being in contact with the art galleries. He used basically the same idea when he was talking to a girl who does something with the music, how she has to be in touch with whoever. I don't remember what exactly the story was, but with different kind of things that businesses that deal with music and kind of people she could cooperate with, etc. So that's something else you can keep in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Got that. So the other day I was out, I did an approach. I had this story, like, it so happens that this girl was a yoga girl, and there's this story that I have practiced. It's for yoga girls. I know it lands all the time, right? I have my stocks ready and everything else. And so, I run over, I open, I give the compliment, and I'm like, oh my God, you look like you're one of those like hippie yoga girls and everything else. Oh, sorry, hippie yoga girls, yeah. And then she's like, yes, I am. And then I go into my story, right? And I'm like, all right, when I think of blah blah blah, I think of these three things, and I start with the first one. And then while I'm still telling her the thing, she interrupts me and I tell her, wait, hold on, shut up. Let me finish my story. Then you can tell me what you think about it. And obviously,
You did that?
no.
Okay.
No, but what I'm trying to get at is, should someone be fixated on telling the story? What happens if the girl, at the moment they say the first thing, piques her interest? Should they pause and just let her talk, or should they finish their story?
Yeah, this is a very, very common question. And this is, you have to think, like, what's the goal of storytelling? Yeah. Okay, to build attraction, great, but it's to get her to invest is the more important part. The goal is to get her to talk. So when a guy doesn't let the girl talk, when she interrupts him, I think it's one of the big mistakes in Daygame. I tell my students, shut the fuck up. Like, that's it, shut the fuck up. And there was a guy in YouTube left a comment that, I sometimes have these comments where I'm like, this guy is a fucking red pill manosphere moron. And there was a comment like that where he was saying that whenever he realized that whenever a girl interrupts him, that it never goes anywhere because she snatches the frame or something stupid like that. And it was like, oh my God, this is like so like, people used to talk about shit like that years ago, but it was really popular 10 years ago. But now people realize, at least in my kind of surroundings, that Daygame is just having cool conversations with chicks. You don't have to play them or manipulate them or whatever. So it's really dumb to think about things that way. Yeah. And then, yeah. So to answer that question in a more constructive way, without talking shit about people, it's actually very good when a girl interrupts you. So what you should do is you tell the first story, she interrupts you, she starts investing. Have a little conversation about what she just gave you, because whenever a girl is talking, you always listen to, did she give you new information? She gave you new information, something you didn't know. You can talk about that. You can play with that information. She responds, she gives you more information. You play with that. You keep going. She responds without giving you new information. There is nothing left to work with. So you go back to your story. You go to thing 2. And then you do thing 2. Maybe she responds. If she doesn't, you go to thing 3. She responds with new information. Great. Add on top of that. She responds new information. Add on top of that, etc. So whenever she interrupts you, you go have a little chat about what she told you. And then but this is important. Then go back to your story, because a lot of the guys, this is what they do. They will have a little chat, but then they will never go back to the second and third thing. And this is the beauty of 3 things or whatever, like, is that you can always go back to your story. You don't have to end the conversation just because, you said lawyers have to study hard. She told you something about studying at this university and how they study until like 2 a.m. every night. And then they have a little chat about that. And then, oh shit, like, I've exhausted the lawyer topic. What do I do next? Well, now you talk about how hard it is to work in that cutthroat industry. You just go back to your 3 things.
All right. And that sounds like a way to stay on topic,
yeah,
without jumping around. But if it so happens that you end up in an organic conversation that leads you somewhere else, then obviously there would be no need to try and go back to finish your story, right? You just kind of like, you should continue the conversation thread wherever it leads you.
So let's say you talked about lawyers and then you somehow started talking about doing cocaine in dorm room after finishing studying.
Always do that anyway, yeah. But then, no, we get from that and then we're talking about travel. Or like, I was in Ibiza and the bathroom and fine, we're powdering our noses, and now you're talking about Europe.
So you can go, obviously you want to follow wherever the conversation goes, you follow it and you keep talking about these topics. But if you at any point run out of things to say, It's like, hey, by the way, another thing that I realized about lawyers is, and you go back to your story. There's always that option always exists.
Right. So these are pretty much, these sound like fail safes. So the idea is, how can you keep the interaction going in an interesting way? And also, because you have these fail safes, you are not going to panic. You'll be more relaxed. Your vibe will be okay. In a way, we're trying to set people up so that the interaction is
Yeah.
as smooth as
I
possible.
really like what you just said about people will not panic, because let's say someone is learning Daygame, and out of all the possible situations, this is one thing that why Daygame coaching works so fast. Not doing this to promote coaching. That's not the goal of this podcast episode, but why infield Daygame coaching works so well, because you take a beginner and there's like all the possible situations that can happen in Daygame, like let's say 100% of situations. And a beginner, he knows how to do a good stop, a good opener, and maybe stack. So he knows what to do in like 3% of situations that can happen. But then he learns storytelling and how to work with topics that come up in very different ways. And maybe now he knows how to deal with 7% of situations that can come up 10%. But then each time a new situation comes up, you learn how to deal with it. You think, hey, where did I get stuck in this set? What could I have done here? What could I have done there? This is why working with your recorded sets is so worth your time. And the more you think about these things, the more you analyze these things while you're a beginner, you don't have to geek out about these things once you're getting laid left and right, unless you want to become top level. So what happens is you go to knowing what to do in 20% of situations, 30%, 40% of situations. And once you know what to do in like 30, 40% of situations, you're basically comfortable with whatever comes, because you're so good at anything that can come up. Like, at least, okay, 40% of that can come up, that everything else that can come up, like, you're probably going to be able to improvise there at that moment. So that's what we're actually trying to do. Build proficiency, can understand what to do in all of these possible scenarios that can come up. And that's while you are learning. But the better you become, while you think about how to come up with these things by analyzing your sets, a very important thing happens. You also get better at coming up with these things, and you can come up with them. Maybe in the beginning you need like 5 minutes to come up with a story, then like 2 minutes, then like 30 seconds, and then you can do it real time. So we're working towards that goal where you're able to come up with things to say on anything that fucking happens. That's the ultimate goal of Daygame, after all. It's not to be a fucking copy-paste monkey. So yeah.
Okay. And is it so we can get the girl to hook, ask some questions, you have organic information, organic conversation in there. Is it important, or how important is it to subtly insert DHVs into the stories?
Not just, so you can do it, just don't brag. Bragging is a really dumb thing to do, because every guy who tries to sleep with a girl is bragging.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do like subtle brags where you gonna slide in some, but yeah, so you can do multiple things with storytelling. You can slide in DHVs, or you can slide in, you can create subtle opportunities for her to ask questions, to understand if she's hooked, she's gonna ask a question. It's like, I work with a bunch of lawyers where I'm from, and I realized that, so where I'm from, oh, where are you from? Oftentimes she's gonna interrupt you. It's like, where are you from? So that's also a very good idea. If, let's say, you're not, you're in a city that has a lot of tourists, and you're not originally from there, but you live there. Let's say I have a student who lives in Prague right now, but he's not originally from Prague. He's a foreigner, and Prague has a lot of Daygamers there, Daygame tourists, yeah, who are just there for a week, 2, 3 weeks, a month, whatever. So what I told him to do is find opportunities to mention that you live there. Like, let's say you find out she's from Prague, and you say, oh, after living here for a year, I realized that people from Prague, and boom, he mentioned that he's for a year. So he's been here for a year. So these are all the things you can do in storytelling that make the conversation better. The DHVs, adding important information, creating opportunities for the girl to ask you questions.
So what I heard one of the techniques, which we don't really care about the techniques here, but there's a very particular technique I noticed in your last statement, which is by saying, I work with many lawyers where I'm from, you are actually baiting. You're baiting her to respond to that. One of the alternative things that I think I've heard is, I don't know about you, but, right? And then you're going to make a statement. And the whole idea is to bait the other person into giving their opinion without asking for it.
Yeah.
Now, for beginners, you obviously don't want to work. They don't need to worry about these minute things. Cause like overall, if you can get the storytelling down with the basic structure you've given, that will have so many more returns.
Yeah.
So then what significance, if any, is there in those subtle? Is that for like someone who really wants to refine their storytelling? Does it really matter to have those little things in there? Because I do know that they help, but to what degree is it important for anyone to eventually care about this?
It is important.
Okay.
It is important because once you have very basic storytelling down, you can do a copy paste story. Like, why not add these things? Because this is it matters a lot, because you can be the day gamer who's just another dude there for a week hitting on every girl there, or you can be the foreigner guy who's living there, and it's very important to distinguish yourself from everyone who's there for a week. So that does matter. Adding the thing that you're there for a year, it does matter. And these are very small things, very easy to do, but they're worth doing after you have very basic storytelling in place. Like, don't have like it's sort of like, you have guys worrying about like, oh, I should like touch her on the street and do like Kino escalation, and like, oh, I should do like negging and push pull, while they can't do a basic story. Like, if your car has a shit engine, like, don't worry about how good whatever. Like, I don't know anything about cars, but like, fix the basic shit first. And like, because guys are thinking about things that give very minor improvements before fixing the big things. And the big things are like, they're not easy to fix, but like, if you, instead of fixing like 20 small things, you fix 3 big things, like, you're gonna do okay. Like, but it's just like, fix your opener, fix your stacking, fix your storytelling, you're gonna be getting laid. Like, that's it. That being said, it's really hard to fix storytelling. So
I have 2 follow-ups. One is, what advice do you have for the people who are getting fixated on these small things? What would you tell them right now?
I mean, just focus on the big things. If you listen, it might be a problem of the second mistake, wrong Daygame model. Maybe if you're listening to someone who keeps telling you that you need to control your frame and do push-pull moves and Kino escalation in Daygame sets, maybe do a bit more research about their credibility, about what results are their students having. Maybe you're following the wrong guys. I really think if you, because people who talk too much about these things, like, I used to talk about these things. Why? I've given this a lot of thought lately. Yeah. Why did I talk about frame control and all of these like very manosphere things? Because that's what everyone talked about, and when you learned Daygame, those were the things you were taught. Like, this is how it works, and there's no other way. If you think differently, you're a blue pill motherfucking stupid moron. Yeah, that's what the belief. Everyone was teaching you that. The Daygame.com guys were teaching you that. Tom Torero was teaching you that. God forbid you read anything from guys like Rollo Tomassi, like fucking manosphere, your red pill nonsense. Yeah, so everyone was teaching you, unless you do this, like, you're an idiot. But then, if you've been in this Daygame industry for a long time, and I've been coaching full-time for more than 7 years, after a while, you just start questioning all these beliefs, and you're like, hey, is this really true? And you're like, I don't need that. Like, it turns out game works really good without that. Hey, is this true? Is that true? And you start testing all these big beliefs that people throw around, and you realize that most of it is absolute bullshit. It's over-exaggerated. So basically, everything that's red pill and manosphere stuff, I would say 95% of it you don't need. You need like a softer version of all of it. So just whenever you hear someone tell you to focus on these like really, and most of these things come from the manosphere, like frame control, push pull, you have to escalate in your sets, and just look at the credibility of the coaches you're learning this from. So that's one. I went on a bit of a rant there. Sorry, guys. So that's one. But if you're focusing on a lot of small things that come from credible sources, maybe things that you learned from, also from Tom Torero, is, I'm not saying anything bad about him. Just he did preach a lot of Red Bull stuff. Still, I mean, I think you agree to that. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. I just kind of consume and I pick. I think I have been at this long enough and I've seen different people that I know the people who one trigger me because I'm like, oh wait, this information doesn't seem right, or at least like I've seen the alternative work too, and I'm like, well, there's no reason to like walk around the world angry if I could have a different approach and still get similar results, right? So yeah, anyway, I get your point.
Yeah. But the second thing is, let's say you're getting your information from someone credible, someone you know. Okay, this is a good information. He's a very reputable coach. Students are getting good results, and like, there's no simple advice of the only thing I can tell you is like, just don't focus on these big things. Focus on the situations that you see all the time. Look at where you get stuck in your sets. And if you let's say you go out 3 times a week and you record in one of those sessions, record all of your sets and listen back to each set. And listen to where do you get stuck? Where are the times where you didn't know what to do? Where did you like, oh shit, what do I do here? Where did you lose the girl? And I would say that 9 out of 10 guys, even guys who are getting some lays here and there, are fucking up the beginning of a set, the first minute of the set. Like, that's it. That's where their mistakes are. The stack, the shit opener. I've done a podcast episode about blowouts, like 6 reasons why guys get blowouts in the beginning. Like, and guys are making these mistakes, or like your opener, your stacking, your storytelling. Like, people are making mistakes in like the first minute of the set. This is where they lose most of what's happening. Every first coaching call I do, even with guys who have quite a bit of experience, they're 9 out of 10 of them, probably more, are fucking up the first minute of the set. It's just, and all these fancy things, all these small minutia things, they're later. They're happening in 1 out of 7 sets, 1 out of 10 sets, 1 out of 5 sets. Yeah. Whereas these things, they happen in every single set. So fix the beginning and then focus on anything else. Yeah.
And so, as a beginner, where can I get help?
Where can you get help?
Yeah, because there's only so much I can do on my own. Like,
no, of course. I mean, you know, my job is to teach people how to learn Daygame. Get coaching, obviously, is going to be the obvious answer, but there's a lot of free shit out there. If you want free shit, there's a lot of free shit. Just go to my mailing list. Once people join my mailing list, there's like an onboarding email series that explains a lot of the important concepts that people, like the background concepts, the meta concepts they have to understand about Daygame to learn faster, and why people aren't learning, why 98% of guys, in my estimate, 99% guys, why do they fail in Daygame? It's all explained there. The content about Daygame is there. Like, I have a free course on YouTube also on daygamecourses.com about all the steps on the London Daygame model explained. There is shit ton of stuff on the podcast about how to fix your blowouts. There is a podcast episode, 6 mistakes, something about blowouts. Just search for blowouts on my YouTube channel. You know, there's a lot of information for free out there. And if you have been going out for, you know, maybe 6 months and you've tried this and it still isn't working, then, like, unfortunately, I know of very, very, very few cases where guys were struggling for like 6 months and then they all of a sudden got it. Well, if you've been doing that, using the right material for long enough, then just get help. Like, that's it. Just send an email to me. Look at the online coaching program if you're already going out. If you're not, think about infill coaching. I mean, there are a lot of options.
Okay. And so...
Oh, the one thing to add. This includes if you've been going out on and off. Guys who go out on and off need accountability for like 6 to 12 months to build the habit, because they don't seem to get to a stage where they're going out a lot. Like they have these bursts of day game where like, now I'm gonna day game, like fucking do like 20 sets this week, and they like go out for like 3 days and then they give up, and then like it's just on and off is the same as like it's a problem that needs to be solved, and that people unfortunately need accountability for that.
Yeah, the on and off, I think, has to come down to sustainable consistency. So
yeah, because shit comes up, whether that's a busy period at work, trip to visit your family, maybe, ups and downs in day game because, you're not getting results. You don't know what results you're not getting, and it's upsetting. So people stop going out. Whereas one of the things I do with the guys I work online is every week we look at, hey, what obstacles do we have coming up? And I help them work around these obstacles. And even when it's a busy period at work or going on a trip, we still try to find ways. Hey, what can you still do to keep your kind of blade sharp, to keep your skills don't lose your skills, etc. So I think that's important. But then also, if you're not seeing results, it's also very demotivating. Whereas if I tell you, hey, this is exactly what you have to do in the next month, and you do that and you see, oh my God, my results improved, that's quite motivating, right? Like, keeps people going out.
yeah, I agree. I could use your services.
You get them for free.
But so there's actually something that came up that I realized while you're talking about that, which is what's better, or what's your take on, one could try to, they do their approaches, they hit a wall with regards to their stack, they get something and maybe it doesn't land, maybe they need to refine it, maybe they just didn't know and they have to figure out what they're going to say next time. There is an option to always do it live, whereby you're exposed to the topic right in field, or there is an option to potentially maybe use flashcards or something, whereby you try to simulate a similar situation, so you can pre-prep at some point where you're not necessarily out, or let's say you can go out because it's dark, it's cold, I don't know, the day's over, you've been working, and so you can't actually do the approaches, but you need to stay sharp. What are your thoughts on that approach to trying to shock your system into like, okay, I got a topic, let me try and riff on it as a way to practice?
So is this question about how to polish storytelling, like outside of day gaming, or is this about what to do when you don't have enough time to day game, how to keep the blade sharp?
This is more of how to polish it. Yeah, how to polish it when you're not out approaching.
Yeah, just go out approach. Just don't waste your time on shit like that. I don't think it's effective to people like that idea, but it's sort of like you watched enough videos about workouts and read enough books and you know the technique, and now you're going to spend like 3 more hours a day watching videos on YouTube, or like half an hour more just to geek out when you have all the information you need. I think it's a bit of an overkill. I think there should be better things you can do with your time. Like, day game already takes a lot of time, so instead work on that when you're out day gaming between your approaches instead of doing it home. I don't think it's an effective way to learn day game.
I meant more of so I approached somebody. I got a location, a geography, Vietnam, right? I took some mental note. Okay, I need to think of 3 things. But with time, if you don't actually practice, internalize a particular thing, eventually you're gonna forget it. Even if you had your 3 things in that moment, it's gonna like disappear, whatever your idea is. And so what I'm trying to get at is not necessarily watching more video, but it's like, hey, how about every morning or whatever, like let me look at a topic and just try to riff off that in that moment, just to kind of stay sharp here.
I think if someone has that problem, they should have fewer stories to remember. Like, just have stories in bigger groups, 2 stories for all of Asia, divide Asia into groups, and that's it. And then day game more. If you're putting in enough volume, you're gonna meet different girls from different parts of the world, and you're gonna polish your stories. And if it's a story that doesn't come up, like comes up once a month, then well, should you even be polishing it? It's something that comes up once a month. You should be polishing things that happen all the time, and the things that happen all the time, you're gonna be polishing them well when you day game. So like if you're in I don't know, in each city, you know what are the geographies you see all the time. It's always the same topics. Like in New York City, you probably get like the same countries and over and over again. Like you're not getting all the world's geographies in equal distribution there. So it's do it when they gaming. I really like, instead of like just spending those 10 minutes in front of a mirror, just when you go get the groceries, leave 10 minutes earlier, do one day game approach. Like just yeah.
Got it. All right. And then final thing is, are you going to do anything related to advanced storytelling?
What is advanced storytelling?
So we have the basic framework.
Yeah.
You get a topic. You say, when I think of three things, or, oh, my friend does that. They've told me this, and so on and so forth. But what about the subtle things such as baiting people to respond, or nuances in how the delivery can be done to make it a bit more effective?
I'm not going to be doing anything on that publicly, because if I make a video on that, then all the people who need to focus on storytelling fundamentals will start to focus on baiting, and it's going to be a complete shit show. But in the online coaching program, we have content on very different topics, and some of those topics we go very deep to like a very advanced level. And storytelling is the topic I think we've done more in depth and more advanced than most other topics. So there's a lot of stuff there. Plus, that's something that I always work during coaching calls. We usually spend with students, once they fix their opener, which is usually the first call, is they fix the beginning. And then we start working on storytelling. But storytelling usually takes us 3-4 months to really get to like a decent level of storytelling. Yeah, at least 3-4. So this is more, it's more person dependent, because maybe one person is doing like, this is more around your personality. Like, so this is something I point out during the coaching calls, where we see these opportunities and different things work for different guys. It's not one size fits all. So if 99% of day gamers in the world, of guys, not even day gamers, 99% of guys who day game at all, yeah, don't need that. They need good fundamentals, and everything else will be just adding things that are not necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you. What is your favorite story to tell?
I don't have a favorite story to tell. Just, learn stuff. It's hard to study. You have to learn so much. Very competitive. You have to work so hard, and then you party hard. It's my favorite story. I've been using it since forever. Of course, like I use it differently for each profession I get, for each topic I get, but there's no... Okay, yeah, yeah. My favorite story is one step at a time theory.
Let's hear that.
Yeah.
Actually, I've wanted to use that before. Let's
That
hear
is the
about that. I
most
forgot it.
powerful storytelling technique I have ever come up with.
Give us the setup, and then.
So the setup is, it's a date thing. It's not something you do on the street, but it's the number one most powerful story I know. Finally, I have an opportunity to create another video on that. Here comes a clip. Okay, so let's say you are on a date, and I haven't told this story for a long time, so I might fuck it up a little bit. But let's say you are on a date, and she's like, "Oh, what are you looking for?" Or "Hey, what do you like in girls? What are you looking for in girls?" Or maybe she asks you something, or maybe you want to use the story before you attempt to pull her home. So you can say something like, "Well, I've had this conversation. I have this weird theory. I call this one step at a time theory. And I've had this conversation. I talked about this with like a lot of people, and all the guys, when I tell them this theory, they're like, what are you talking about? You're weird. Like, what is this shit?" But all the girls, they really understand it. And because guys see everything black or white. Like they see a girl and they're like, "Do I want to sleep with her or not?" Like that's it. They either want a girl or not. There is no in between. And I used to be like that, but I used to do a lot of dumb shit. And then at one point I realized it's kind of boring. And I realized that, well, sorry, but like I was with this girl, and we were having sex, and middle of the sex, I just kind of realized, like, I'm not feeling this. This is just friction. Why am I doing this? And I just stopped and I said, hey, let's not do this. And the girl was obviously really pissed. And the girls, when I tell this story, they're always like, oh yeah, well, she was obviously pissed. And then I realized, started thinking about, hey, how did I end up in this situation? What do I do? What do I do? And since that moment, it's never a yes or no. I never know whether I want to sleep with the girl, whether I want to be in a relationship with the girl. But I only look at, hey, do I want to take one more step? Like, for example, I might be walking down the street, going to get some food from the store, and I might see a girl. It's like, hey, do I want to go and say hi? And you chat with someone. It's like, hey, do I want to take their number? Was this interesting? And then you go home and it's like, hey, do I actually want to text them? Because sometimes you chat with someone, you take their number, but then you realize, oh, it didn't really click. And I'll send a message. And then you go for one drink and, hey, was this fun? Do I want to go for one more drink? And this is probably where this story is being told, like the second venue, second venue. Yes, so second drink. And it always keeps going. It's like, hey, am I enjoying this? Do I want to maybe, invite them back to my place? And again, maybe yes, maybe no, but then I always think only one step ahead. So maybe we go to my place and we're there and we're chilling and we realize, hey, it feels good, but maybe we shouldn't take more steps today and we should stop there. But sometimes you feel like, hey, I want to take one more step. And then you keep going for as long as you both feel comfortable. But there's an important part here because, people make like two weird things. First of all, they're skipping steps. They're thinking like 5 steps ahead instead of just 1 step ahead. I like to think 1 step ahead. But sometimes the other thing people do is sometimes they feel like that next step would feel really good, but they don't take it. They don't do it. So this is my really weird theory about dating. So I never know what I know about what I want with a girl, what I'm looking for. I always look at, hey, do I want to take one more step? That's my favorite story.
Bravo.
Again, I haven't told it in a long time, but this is the story. Yeah, almost every day hear the story. And the thing is, okay, one thing is we're only thinking one step at a time ahead. So going back to my place doesn't mean having sex. It just means coming back to staying overnight, by the way. I forgot to include that. Sometimes staying overnight doesn't include having sex. That's included in the story. But the other thing I said is sometimes we feel like the next step will feel really good, but we don't take it.
Right. And I think this captures a lot of things whereby you are able to subtly convey all these setups, right? Plant the seeds, but also address the concerns a girl could possibly have before she ever even brings them up.
Yeah.
And so now basically she probably won't even have to bring it up. Like, well, you've covered every single point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a great other alternative use for storytelling, because we had the option where you have the investment, like trying to draw investment from the girl, but this is also like trying to deliver subtle cues for the steps you're going to take, but also to try and avoid this kind of recoil or like apprehension and anxiety from the girl about what the next step might be.
Yeah. And this is something we didn't talk about, actually. We were talking about advanced storytelling. There is an advanced form of storytelling, but it's more for the dates, where you use storytelling to set up certain ideas, certain concepts, to establish certain beliefs.
Or to have a girl to reveal certain things that you...
Yeah, but most importantly, I use it to set up certain kind of... You can use it to bring up adventurous topics. And what's normal, what's not normal, what's good, what's not good. Like I have a student who is a researcher, and part of his research in the past has been researching gay porn. And it's a topic he brings up on his dates, so even in dating sets, and that brings it to the topic of most guys don't know what they're doing in bed and blah blah blah. And so you talk about that a little bit. It's quite advanced because you shouldn't talk about sex on dates, but yeah. So yeah.
Okay. With that, I think we can wrap up.
Okay. Thank you for all your questions.
Thank you for answering them.
If you have any questions to ask me, make sure you are on my mailing list. I have multiple big projects coming up. The first project coming up will be on how to overcome approach anxiety. The second one will be on how to become more consistent, more serious about Daygame instead of going out on and off for years so you finally start getting some results. And the third one will be on how to improve your Daygame so you start getting more numbers on more dates. Not just more numbers and more dates, but also how to do that in a way that makes it more consistent and predictable. All three projects will be completely free, so if you want me to help you improve your Daygame, then wait for an email with an invitation to participate in these projects. That's it for this time. See you in the next podcast episode. Ciao, guys.